One of you out there made a comment expressing a want for escape and evasion skills within the arts of the Shinobi. So today, I will speak on one of my favorite aquatic skills. Tied to Mizudori no Oshie within the 17th century ninjutsu manual known as the Shoninki, we have the historical precedent of shinobi using a sword's saya, that is the scabbard, as a breathing tube. On the surface, this skill seems straightforward until one tries it out. I have been practicing saya breathing for a few years now, so I can appreciate the persistence and training that a shinobi would have exhibited to master this technique. The temperament of the water determines how the skill is to be employed, and one must learn to breathe with calm draws and exhales, especially when being hunted by foot patrols. And this is the context that matters. If I'm understanding the history correctly, shinobi were taught to swim silently through water and to expose only the tops of their heads when they were surfacing, so as to minimize their presence signatures. Furthermore, the skills within Mizudori no Oshie include hiding among the plants and trees near an embankment. This tells us a number of things about what is required of a shinobi to use this skill effectively. The first thing that comes to mind is the importance of waterproofing mission-critical items. The notion that shinobi would swim through or hide in water during an infiltration without the ability to start a fire after exiting the drink is not in line with what their duties would entail. If a shinobi was infiltrating to carry out arson, for example, then using the water element to hide presence signatures would waterlog his fuses, torches, gunpowder, and charcloth to a point of utter uselessness unless ninja had methods of waterproofing these items. I also find myself thinking of the ridiculous way in which I treat my own katana as some kind of precious jewel that needs to be left pristine and clean at all times, when history and practical application shows that this piece of equipment would be under the constant assault of mud, water, sand, and blood during a mission. Now, I'm sure shinobi cleaned their swords, but I doubt their priority was to keep a katana dry. In short, the blade was for work, and not so much for show. This is evident in the technique here of anchoring oneself to the bottom of a river. Rivers are moving, and adding the natural buoyancy of the body to this flow, one will find it difficult to keep oneself fully submerged. And so if a shinobi was being pursued and jumped in a river as a last-ditch attempt to escape, he would have to either hide among the plants of the bank by holding to roots and branches, or use a katana to tack him down beneath the surface. Doing this, one could remain hidden for a single breath as the torchlight of pursuers gave a pass and then began searching elsewhere, whereas during the day it would be harder to pull off this method of evasion. The length of time one can stay under, however, markedly improves with a saya or bamboo breathing tube, but the trade-off will be an increased risk of discovery due to surface agitation from the saya and sound produced by the breath leaving the tube. Furthermore, instead of holding onto the suka, or handle of the katana with the hands, a different technique would have to be employed to stay anchored under moving water. One way I have learned to do this is to use a fudoza seated posture, wrapping one leg around the suka or mune, which is the back of the blade, and using the hands to plug the nose, hold the saya, and fin oneself down when inhaling. This definitely requires practice, as a wrong move will lead to laceration. Also, the depth of the water and length of the saya determines how well one may breathe. The pressure of the water above pushes on the body, which calls for the use of diaphragmatic muscles to aid inspiration. If one's breaths are too deep, the body will rise, unless you have equipment which weighs you down. So if you aren't carrying equipment, short, shallow breaths are preferred. But then again, slow, deep inspirations and exhalations help one remain calm and do not make as much noise. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that shinobi would not have executed saya breathing without having initial training to back up his efforts. We can surmise that a ninja put significant time into developing this skill. Otherwise, there was no reason to maintain it in the texts. Why bother if so much training is required? This rhetorical question conveys that ninja not only found value in this skill, enough so that they trained in using it, but also that they were successful in hiding and infiltrating using the skill, enough so that they wrote it down. It kind of makes me wonder what facets of this skill may not have been transmitted through time. I'm sure there were idiosyncratic variations, but we won't ever know.